I want to say at the outset of this, I don't work for CNN. I don't care one iota whether CNN goes bankrupt or thrives. I don't care whether it's the top news network or sinks all the way down below ABC News. I have no vested interest in seeing CNN succeed or fail. But that being said, Project Veritas did release a part 2 to their CNN expose, and I thought there was a few points I want to go over because they're interesting. And as a journalist working in media in New York City, the footage they show is interesting. We're not going to go over the entire thing like I did last time. I know there's such a joy for all of you guys. You enjoyed my analysis so deeply. But there were a few points that I found pretty interesting that I wanted to talk about. For example, one clip I did find quite fascinating that Project Veritas published was a little kind of hidden recording of Evan Perez, who's a senior justice correspondent for CNN, saying something in private that he had never said on CNN. Now, he doesn't have a show per se, so it's not like he's on there every night. But granted, it's not an opinion he's taken publicly. And on an air, like we can watch the clip, but you can tell he obviously thinks like Hunter Biden messed up.
Senior justice correspondent Evan Perez has a take on the Biden corruption story that you've never heard him say publicly.
Now, I'll tell you this, Joe Biden has a problem. Okay. Because his son was trading on his name. It looks bad. It smells bad. It's not illegal. It's nothing illegal about it. It's crazy. What? I mean, you're benefiting from your father's name. Okay. You're trading on his name. Everybody does that. But that's the problem. Because how do you then say Donald Trump is a person, get him out of here, and we're different when your son is doing the same shit?
Okay, yeah, this clip reveals something true but kind of sad about cable news, which is that often, whether it's a panelist or a correspondent, everybody is playing a little bit of a character. And it may not be spoken outright, but when you have a bunch of talking heads on a news show, each person is it's implied that you need to take a position, and you're going to take a position because we're bringing on another guest that's going to take a conservative position or a libertarian position, or we want you to take a centrist position because we have Bernie Sanders on and he's going to have... Regardless, even CNN employees, when they're on air, they want to make compelling television, and often that's taking a specific stance even if they don't hold it in private. And this is just a symptom across all of cable news. It's a symptom across Vice and BuzzFeed too, and that the people you see on camera are often playing toward what they think is going to make compelling content. And the fact that Perez reveals in private that he thinks what Hunter Biden did was pretty unethical and is kind of a problem for Joe Biden, but the fact that he doesn't say it on air, yeah, I think it's a good tell to show you that when you see people on cable news, they're playing characters often, or at least caricatures. And maybe that's not as transparent and pure as we'd like the news to be, but it's a reality of just the way the system operates. But I also want to listen to some of the clips that they have of Jeff Zucker talking on his 9 a.m. editorial meeting. And I was thinking about this 9 a.m. editorial meeting recording. I wish I could get a little more clarity on what kind of 9 a.m. meeting this is, or if this really is a 9 a.m. editorial meeting. Is it an editorial meeting with the head of every EP executive producer from all the shows from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Or is it Zucker on a call with just one specific EP for the 4 o'clock show, like Anderson Cooper show, or the Don Lemon show? Because each hour show on CNN, for instance, it operates almost like like the army. Like each show has a battalion. You have your host, and then you have your executive producer, and then you have a kind of a little battalion of line producers, coordinators, writers, and they generate the A block, the B block, the segments, the questions. And so when Jeff Zucker, for instance, in this clip we'll play, is commenting saying we should do a piece on whether Donald Trump's Twitter should be suspended, like, yeah, it's obviously not going to happen, but it'll be interesting. I wish I knew, is he talking to one specific executive producer on a show, or is he just kind of throwing this out here to all the executive producers? It's not really too revealing in the Project Veritas clip. Nonetheless, it's interesting, so let's watch it.
One of the things Poarch was able to do was to record CNN's 9 a.m. morning editorial calls. CNN's president, Jeff Zucker, leads the call of CNN movers and shakers.
David, are we taking Andrew Yang seriously enough? I mean, he's like number 6 in the poll, and he's just raised $10 million, so I take him as seriously as that. That he's clearly sparked interest. So I think he's a likely nominee? No, I don't. Should we be taking him more seriously?
Yes, David Chalian thinks the network should look at Yang, even though it's clear he doesn't think he has a chance to be the nominee.
So, to me, it's interesting. Project Veritas walks away with a different perspective on this piece of audio than I have. And I'm not sure, each is, it's a bit of a Rorschach test, I think, but you can read it differently. And so the way I read it, actually, is when I listen to David responding to Jeff Zucker here.
Oh, so I take him as seriously as that he clearly sparked interest. So I think he's a likely nominee? No, I don't.
It's David defending himself against Jeff Zucker, who's saying, are we taking Andrew Yang seriously enough? Meaning, are we airing enough content on Andrew Yang? Like, why aren't we doing more? Is implied underneath that current. Like, hey, David, why aren't we doing more Andrew Yang content? And you hear David saying, like, yeah, no, we're taking him seriously. Like, as seriously as, he raised $10 million. Like, do I think he's the likely nominee? No, but... And so David kind of defending the fact that, like, oh yeah, I've told people, like, yeah, forget Andrew Yang. And that's, in fact, Jeff Zucker that thinks CNN should be covering more of Andrew Yang. And it's David, who had perhaps on the show he's responsible for been not covering Andrew Yang as much. I read it as the inverse, or I interpreted it as the inverse as Project Veritas did. Like, I viewed it as David trying to defend himself against the fact that he hadn't been covering Andrew Yang very much. And Jeff Zucker being like, we should cover Andrew Yang more. Do you think we're taking him seriously enough?
Should we be taking him more seriously? Yeah, I don't know why we would take, both these candidates seriously. We should definitely be looking at why Andrew Yang is resonating.
Yeah, David's response here, we should definitely be looking at why Andrew Yang is resonating, is a little bit of a walking back and be like, oh yeah, we'll take a look at, like, why is Andrew Yang so popular with millennials, or what's going on there? We'll do some pieces on that. Like, you're right, Jeff Zucker, we should be looking more into Andrew Yang. Although it's clear that David doesn't think Andrew Yang is going to win. And this is, I guess, touches upon something also that's true, is that inherently news and journalism is a human endeavor. And whenever a collection of humans get together, they're all going to have their inherent biases or political leanings, and you hope that you can extract them out in some sort of academic setting and say, these are our biases, we're going to put them aside, and we're going to cover them fairly. But in that, so David, for instance, in that, of course, he may just feel intuitively that if Andrew Yang isn't going to win, I don't want our show covering him. I want to cover Elizabeth Warren because I think she has a higher likelihood of getting a nomination, and so we want our team to be more close to Elizabeth Warren, so when she gets the nomination, we can get more interviews with Elizabeth Warren. It's that kind of political, tactical thinking in terms of how to get access to the candidate the most frequently for the longest period of time. Something to think about. It's obvious that, is this the optimal solution? The fact that David is kind of brushing Andrew Yang to the side? At least in my opinion, that's what it seems like. No, but I think this maybe explains how I read this conversation. But you're free to interpret it differently.
Andrew Yang is resonating.
Zucker was like, when Yang raised like $10 million, he said, like, are we even taking this guy seriously?
Yeah, I don't think he likes Yang.
Yeah, but then remember, Chalian pushed back, like, well, we got to take everyone seriously. Even Trump raised $125 million. Raised $125 million. But
right. Okay. So then David pushed back and said, "Yeah, we got to take everybody seriously." Trump raised $125 million, but I didn't hear that in the audio clip. So maybe they're going off of more information. But if so, why not just show the audio clip to make it more clear to all of us who actually wants Andrew Yang on the program? Is it Jeff Zucker or is it David Chalian? Because it feels like Jeff Zucker wants Andrew Yang on the program more. And this isn't a defense of Jeff Zucker in any way. I don't care whether he wants Andrew Yang on the program more or less. Whatever. It's me just interpolating how I've perceived every editorial meeting I've been in and watched people interact with kind of the big boss.
Think of Andrew Yang.
Yang's cool. Yeah, I like Yang. Well, actually, I was just reading just before I came here, actually. He's pissed at CNN.
Oh, yeah, because his face wasn't put up on a graphic. Because we didn't put his name on a graphic.
Why?
Because, we were showing a poll, and I think Yang was ahead of Better O'Rourke, but yet we put Better O'Rourke, and we didn't put Yang.
Why do you... Just...
Well, because
happens, or
Shit probably happens. Like, that's the conventional reason. But the Yang people have like a conspiracy, like CNN hates Yang. They don't want his 1,000.
I think that's what I was.
Okay, so here's a clip where Project Veritas asks about the fact that why was Andrew Yang not, one of the faces on the CNN banner, and the CNN media coordinator says, yes, actually kind of an honest mistake. Beto O'Rourke was on there. I guess it didn't fit. Whoops, these things happen. And I'm inclined to agree with that or believe that explanation, purely on the fact that media is pretty fast moving and there's a lot of expectations to generate content quickly. And I can see some poor graphic designer being told, hey, quickly mock up a list of these people, and the graphic designers quickly photoshopping the faces in and forgot Andrew Yang. It gets sent to the producer on that show, and they run it and nobody really notices. Is that a shame? 100%. It's one of those things of just small systemic failures in the system because of the relentless pressure to push volume of content. And you kind of see that reaffirmed by our media coordinator here. But the last thing I want to talk about is this clip that Project Veritas has of Jeff Zucker saying, oh, we should definitely do a segment on whether Donald Trump's Twitter should be suspended. And then he kind of admits, like, it's definitely not going to happen, but it might make for kind of a compelling news segment, I suppose. And once again, I find this actually is a pretty good insight into how media companies think. Let's go ahead and watch it.
I also think we should be doing a segment somewhere on what Kamala Harris raised last night at AC 360, and that others are talking about. It's not going to happen, but I think it's a good segment in a show. Should Trump's Twitter account be suspended? Obviously, what Kamala Harris raised, others are talking about it. It's not going to happen, but it's a good talk. It's a good segment.
For Jeff Zucker, the Democratic race seems to be about good segments rather than fair and balanced coverage of the campaign.
So, yeah, this is, I think, another actually relatively revealing clip. I actually like these clips a little bit better than their first CNN expose. So this clip where Jeff Zucker is suggesting they cover a certain angle, this idea of should Donald Trump's Twitter be suspended, with the news peg that, oh, Kamala Harris brought it up in some debate. So that's the way they can funnel in this kind of catchy, provocative headline, should Donald Trump's Twitter be suspended? And people at every media company aren't fools. They know people are going to hate click on that or rage click on it or click on it because they agree, and they know they can drive traffic that way. And the best way to funnel that kind of controversial headline in is to peg it to like, oh, well, we're just pushing this headline out because Kamala Harris suggested it, so thus it's newsworthy. And this is kind of a disheartening maneuver that media companies do all the time. Elon Musk has a meeting with Volkswagen, and then every EP is in there being like, let's cut up a video, and with the headline, 3 reasons why Elon Musk should sell Tesla to VW. Now, of course, any reasonable, intelligent viewer is going to read that headline, 3 reasons why Elon Musk should sell Teslas to VW, as ridiculous. There's no reason why he should sell Tesla to VW, but it makes for a controversial headline and gets myself and some of our friends to click, and that drives traffic. And yeah, is that the most pure, noble form of just reporting the news as a matter of record? No, but ultimately they're in the business of driving traffic at the same time as reporting the news. And this is often how media companies justify a lot of the headlines or segments that they run. So this clip in particular Project Veritas has, I think, is actually quite revealing into the machinations of media companies, like how the organism thinks. Well, if we tie this controversial headline to this news peg, then we can funnel it under news. And it's a kind of self-rationalization that a lot of media companies do. The other point I guess I want to address is, well, who does CNN like, or who are they biased against? I think the strongest argument anybody could make is that Jeff Zucker would like Kamala Harris the most, purely because he's on record as introducing her to a lot of New York City elites. He gave money to her campaign. He had a breakfast for her. He obviously likes and has a friendship with Kamala Harris. So if any Democratic candidate that CNN would ideally prop up or support, it would undoubtedly be Kamala Harris if Jeff Zucker was the total tyrant dictator that perhaps some people would like to believe. But the way Kamala Harris is getting treated in the media, which I don't think is any worse or better than any of the other Democratic candidates at the moment, to my mind illustrates that when it's a media company this large and this vast, it's hard even for Jeff Zucker to get let's say he wanted to have an agenda to get it across. And you saw that, or at least I feel like I saw that earlier when he was saying to David in that editorial meeting, are we taking Andrew Yang seriously enough?
Are we taking Andrew Yang seriously enough?
With Jeff Zucker implying, hey, I want you guys to put more Andrew Yang content up there. Why aren't you guys doing it? And you can see David and some other people push back at the fact that Andrew Yang wasn't up there, or like, oh yeah, we forgot to include him. And that frustrates Zucker. Even he himself can't quite control a news media company that large, or as large as CNN at least. Anyway, these are, to my mind, the clips that are most elucidating to how media companies think and work and operate. Like I said, I don't work for CNN. I have no dog in this fight. I have no vested interest in protecting CNN, defending CNN, torching CNN. I merely approach these videos as hopefully a constructive exploration as to how media companies operate, why people say the things they do, and why they think the way they think. If you found this insightful or interesting or terrible, and you think I'm some sort of communist socialist yuppie, click like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.